A new Bridgerton era unfolds as we get to experience the world of Queen Charlotte riding through past and present to tell her story. Young Charlotte is picked up by the royal carousel from Germany to London to be married off to the King of England. Her brother Adolphus signed a contract accepting the proposal on her behalf. Charlotte is not happy about it, but he explains he could not refuse the most powerful empire in the world. Better to be allies than enemies. In present day, Queen Charlotte is still her witty self, smart and a little grumpy. The news of her son's wife and child's death at childbirth grieves her because she is without an heir to succeed their line. The crown now has a crisis on its hands. Her Majesty has 15 children and not a legitimate heir from any of them. Getting to England, Charlotte realizes her soon-to-be mother-in-law, the Dowager Princess, is rather difficult and domineering. Plus, her wedding is to happen in a few hours. The Dowager Princess gathers the council and shares her concerns over Charlotte's skin color. They fear people will talk, so they extend the guest list, inviting brown-skinned people to the ceremony. They call it the Great Experiment. Normally, black folks are not allowed to mix with whites, nor are they given titles in the society. Meanwhile, Charlotte tries to figure out what the king is like, but no one would tell her anything, so she makes a run for it, believing him to be a troll or a beast. Brimsley, her assigned attendant, runs around looking for her as the marriage hour is upon them. The Danburys are surprised as the queen bestows on them the title of Lord and Lady Danbury before the wedding. She does so for a few others too. While Charlotte tries to climb over a wall, someone approaches her. She tells him to help her over the wall, but he refuses. To her surprise, it's the king. She's relieved he looks decent and immediately demands to know everything about him. He tells her all he can and she finds him quite charming. Adolphus finds them and hopes she doesn't run away. After giving it a thought, Charlotte decides to marry George. Everyone stares as she walks down the aisle. She seems quite happy with her choice. She and George get married and they have a wonderful evening. As they say goodbye to their guests, Charlotte does not like how her brother Adolphus is acting so courteous to her all of a sudden. Agatha Danbury introduces herself. She is to be part of her lady's court. Charlotte is pleased to meet her and hopes they could be friends. Agatha, however, warns her to be careful and to call on her if ever there's a problem. George tells Charlotte he has a surprise for her. He takes her to Buckingham Palace where she'll be staying, while he lives on an estate in Kew. Charlotte is not okay with the arrangement and insists they spend the night together, as is right for a married couple. He grudgingly goes in and she runs after him to ask why he's angry. He says he does not want to stay. They are to live separate. It's for the best, he says. So she allows him, no longer addressing him as George, but Your Majesty. She retires with utter disappointment. Brimsley follows her wherever she goes, and she wonders if they will spend their lives together instead of the king. All alone in her room, she wishes she had gone over the wall. In present day, Queen Charlotte gathers her children and demands they produce an heir to the throne. Her sons have children with mistresses, which is unacceptable, and her daughters are unmarried. The following day, to young Charlotte's astonishment, she has no engagements. She thought she would have a full itinerary, but it's free because it's her honeymoon. Meanwhile, the council discusses the people's comments about letting black folks into the town and giving them titles. They also worry if the king has performed his marriage rites on the wedding night, knowing how stubborn he can be, while Charlotte spends her days doing the same routine and it's driving her insane. Queen Charlotte has a hard time convincing her sons to find a respectable lady to marry. She fears their family royal lineage may as well end with her children if one of them does not provide a legitimate heir soon, as is the gossip on the streets of London, not to mention the meddling writer Lady Whistledown sounding it like a gong in her prints. Unable to take it anymore, Charlotte visits George and asks why he's been avoiding her, but he sends her away and she returns angry. The Dowager Princess summons George and Charlotte's assistant Brimsley and Reynolds to know how the couple is doing. They lie to them about the two getting along. Brimsley tells Reynolds to make the king visit his wife, or at least do something to please her, since he's confirmed to the queen they have been together. Charlotte receives a gift from the king. It's a puppy which she believes to be a deformed bunny. Charlotte tells Brimsley to make arrangements for her to meet her ladies in waiting, but she's not to see anyone until honeymoon season is over. Brimsley tells her to meet anyone, she must be someone discreet, so she sends for Lady Danbury. She tells Lady Danbury how suffocated she is in the marriage. Agatha Danbury advises her to find a way to consummate their marriage. If not, her place as queen is not solidified. Meanwhile, Lady Danbury is not enjoying her marriage either. Her husband uses her like a sex toy and has no regard for her whatsoever. The two women become great friends over time. Queen Charlotte invites Lady Bridgerton to inquire how she's managed to get 2 children married in 2 years when she can't get even 1 out of 15 to marry. Lady Bridgerton explains that maybe if they fall in love, it'll help. Queen Charlotte says love is not the issue. Her sons have fallen in love with commoners, but what she wants is a lady from a respectable home. Lady Danbury believes marriage to be a painful lifelong sentence, considering her experience with Lord Danbury. After listening to the ladies, the Queen decides to find her sons wives and simply order them to marry. The Dowager Princess sends for Lady Danbury, whose husband wonders why the royal house is suddenly interested in her. News of her visit with Charlotte reached the princess and she wants to know what they spoke of. Agatha strikes a bargain with the princess to give her and her husband all that comes with the title of Lord and Lady if she must tell her anything. George finally visits Charlotte, who is not so pleased to see him. He takes her to his observatory to show her what he's been up to, studying the constellations. He joins her back to Buckingham Palace after they kiss. That night, they consummate their marriage. The next day, Charlotte overhears the king and his mother arguing of how he's done everything his mother asked, like charming, marrying, and bedding Charlotte instead of following his passion. Meanwhile, it seems George is ill and does not wish Charlotte to know. The Queen continues to worry over not having an heir, so she prepares a list of eligible ladies for her sons. While members of the ton feel awkward socializing with brown skin color people, Lady Danbury updates the princess on the relationship between George and Charlotte, saying sweet things about them. Meanwhile, the couple could merely stand each other. They just appear in love in front of everyone. They both perform their duties to try and have a child as is required of them. They call it duty, not love. Having scheduled days when they meet, Charlotte tells Lady Danbury how much she hates being with the king, when in truth, she's absolutely enjoying it. Brimsley saw the king treated by a regular physician in the cellar and told Charlotte about it, who asks George, but he brushes it off. The Dowager Princess continues to meet with Lady Danbury to get news as there is pressure on the crown to produce an heir. Meanwhile, Lady Danbury manages to get the princess to consider letting her and her husband host the first ball of the season. She sends out invitation and members of the town are not pleased. Charlotte gets curious of how George spends his days, seeing he doesn't allow any social activities in the palace. On the other hand, the council queries the Queen over letting Lady Danbury host the first ball of the season. The town is angry and wish not to attend. They tell her to make Lady Danbury cancel the ball. Danbury tries to get Charlotte's help over the matter, but she has her head in the clouds over George. Agatha reminds her of her duties to the people. Later that night, Charlotte tells George they need to stop the even and odd day arrangements and be man and wife. She also suggests they open up the palace gates. They've had their wall up too high, all thanks to Lady Danbury's pep talk. The town swarms the Danbury mansion as they received word that the king and queen will be attending the ball. The king and queen arrive and all eyes are on them as they take the dance floor. Soon after, white and black folks start mingling, dancing together, and it seems the great experiment worked after all. Later at home, George commends Charlotte for getting society to mix with just one dance, black and white folks alike, something they've been unable to do for centuries. That night, Lord Danbury dies of excitement in bed with his wife for hosting the first ball with the king and queen in attendance. Lady Danbury rejoices over it. She's always dreamed of being rid of him. In present day, Lady Danbury tells Lady Bridgerton how fortunate she is to be without her husband, and this upsets her. She later shares her ordeal with Lord Danbury and explains that she considers Violet fortunate of having felt love from her husband, unlike her. Queen Charlotte asks Brimsley why her daughters are not married. He explains maybe they are unable to leave her waiting on her husband to come back to his senses. She sends him out immediately. Charlotte wakes in the middle of the night to find George acting funny. He runs out to the garden, strips his clothes while professing love to Venus. Charlotte is astonished. She manages to calm him down and gets him inside. There she questions Reynolds of what's happening with her husband. Now we get to know George's side of the story. George had a meltdown the day he heard his mother had found him a bride. She contacted the best physicians who tried everything they could but couldn't cure him. A doctor, John Monroe, who treats mental patients, suggests that maybe his problem is not physical but mental. He further proves his theory by merely talking to him and he calms down. It's revealed that George's condition is the reason no one would say say anything to Charlotte when she arrived and why he wanted to stay away from her. Seeing how happy he felt with Charlotte when they met, George worried about her finding out about his condition, so he tells the doctor to find a permanent solution for his condition, which is the reason he was absent on his wedding night and the night after. The treatments were too extreme, so he escaped for a bit to be with his wife while trying so hard to contain himself. He further dismissed the doctor, seeing his methods did nothing to help his condition, whereas spending time with his wife did him a world of good. The night after Lady Danbury's party, the doctor tells him his wife is with child. The news rattles him and he starts acting crazy. That's why Charlotte found him that night scribbling on the wall. Charlotte confronts the Dowager Princess the following day. George overhears their argument and immediately runs back to the doctor to continue with his treatments. In present day, young eligible ladies from all over have arrived Her Majesty's Hall hoping to be betrothed to one of the Queen's son. After laying Lord Danbury to rest, Lady Danbury shares with her handmaid how she was promised to Lord Danbury at 3 years old and has served him all her life. Meanwhile, the Dowager Princess visits Charlotte with the royal physician to find out if she's pregnant, and they confirm it's true. The princess decides to pack her things to Buckingham Palace to monitor how she's doing. While George is away on treatment, Charlotte sends him letters to inform she's with child, but he would not read them as the doctor orders. The black folks share their concern with Lady Danbury over her husband's passing. They want to know if the title of Lord is succeeded by her son, or was it just bestowed to Lord Danbury alone, something she never gave a thought. Charlotte is still waiting to hear from George. Meanwhile, she's sick of her mother-in-law's presence. She writes another letter, but to her brother Adolphus, saying she wants to leave. Brimsley reads it and wonders if he should post it. Lady Danbury goes for a walk and meets Lord Ledger, who is awfully nice to her. They agree to meet each other every other day. Back in present day, the Queen presents 2 maidens to her sons as wives. They are to marry in a week. No questions asked. While Violet Bridgerton shares with Lady Danbury how she misses her husband and is in need of a man's touch of late. Lady Danbury starts spending an awful lot of time with Lord Ledger and seems to be enjoying the company far too much. Adolphus arrives Buckingham Palace. While he's surprised at her protruding belly, Charlotte demands he takes her home at once. Adolphus explains he cannot. It would be an act of treason to take her away and risk the alliance of their empire with Great Britain. Meanwhile, George continues to endure pain at the hands of Dr. Monroe. His servants are really concerned hearing his screams echo through the halls of Kew. Lady Danbury is told the title bestowed on her husband died with him. She is to become a simpleton, and worse, her husband left her almost penniless, seeing he used a lot of his money to live up to the title of a lord. Brimsley notices how devastated and lonely Charlotte is, so he tries to help the situation by talking to Reynolds, but he's of no help. Reynolds rides back to Kew to try and stop the treatment, but the doctors throw him out. Lady Danbury presents her son to the Queen as Lord Danbury, and it's received with mixed feelings. Meanwhile, Charlotte visits Lady Danbury to offer her condolences and says she is not going back to the palace. Lady Danbury quickly sends a footman to inform the palace. Harboring the mother to the heir of Great Britain would be considered treason. Brimsley tries to handle the situation and warns Adolphus to keep Charlotte's disappearance discreet. Charlotte and Lady Danbury get talking and decide to become good friends. After their discussion, Charlotte decides to return back. In present day, Queen Charlotte has managed to get 2 of her sons to marry. Lady Danbury finally caves into her feelings and sleeps with Lord Ledger. In present day, she turns the house about just to find the hat Lord Ledger gifted her on that day. After months of nothing, Charlotte visits Kew to see her husband and is stunned at the sight of him. She dismisses the doctors immediately and asks Brimsley to pack her things. They're moving to Kew. George is back to his usual self after a warm bath and good food. He orders Charlotte to go back to Buckingham Palace, but what she wants to know is if he loves her, as she confesses she does. George admits he's in love with her. The Queen's eldest children confront her about her wish to get an heir so bad. They complain she hasn't truly been a mother to them, a complaint she finds rather odd. The princess meets with Lady Danbury and requests to know what's happening with the Queen. This time she promises to try and get Parliament to retain her title as Lady Danbury. The next day, the princess visits Kew to see George, but Charlotte would not let her see him. The princess informs her of the need for George to come out of hiding and face his people. He must address Parliament if they must ensure the crown is without question. Meanwhile, Lady Bridgerton finds the hat her father made when she was little in Lady Danbury's house and gets curious. Turns out Lord Ledger is her father. Lady Danbury tells her it was the Queen's brother Adolphus she courted after her husband died to stop her curiosity. While Charlotte is delivered of a baby boy, Danbury meets the princess yet again to know if her title is still secured. With no hopes, she tears in front of her. The princess tells her to put herself together and be the strong woman she believes her to be. The only person who can help the matter is the king, so she advises she takes it up with them, seeing how close she is to the queen. George is set to address the Parliament, but he seems a bit shaky. They arrive at the Parliament, but he's unable to get out of the carriage. Reynolds informs Charlotte and she goes to talk to him. She finds him under the bed, afraid. He tells her to leave him, he will never be fine and she will be miserable for the rest of her life, but she promises to never leave his side. Adolphus proposes to Lady Danbury, but she's rather tongue-tied. He tells her to take some time to think about it. Meanwhile, Violet Bridgerton did not buy Lady Danbury's explanation about who she courted, so she invites her for tea. The council confronts the Queen about George and Charlotte's plan to host a ball to celebrate the arrival of the prince, a plan she is not aware of. They believe she has lost control over her son. Also, they worry about his medical state should his fit surface at the ball. She assures them he'll be fine. It's the day of the ball and the guests have arrived. Charlotte and a nervous George make an entrance into the ball. She tries to keep him calm as they take the dance floor. After hearing what life would be like after marriage with Adolphus, Lady Danbury refuses Adolphus's proposal. She decides to leave for herself. Meanwhile, the princess commends Charlotte on hosting a wonderful ball and thanks her for making George happy. When Charlotte receives news from her son Edward, his wife is expecting. The news gladdens her so much. Meanwhile, young Charlotte confronts Lady Danbury about refusing her brother and not coming to her with her concerns over the title. She tells her to come directly to her with any concerns she may have in the future. As for her brother, he'll be fine. George offers Charlotte a drink which she refuses as she reveals she is expecting another baby. In present day, Lady Danbury honors Lady Bridgerton's invitation. She keeps all her father's hat on display just to see her reaction, but Lady Danbury manages to contain her feelings. It's obvious to Lady Danbury that Violet is onto her over what happened. Queen Charlotte visits George after so long to give him the news of their grandchild, a legitimate heir to the throne. He's so happy for the news. Their line of succession will not end. George thanks her for everything, but mostly for not going over the wall. The end. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Tune in for more movie moments.